Okay, so Brian Patrick Corrin, chiropractor, Jersey City, New Jersey. So the word prophet, pro means before, and the second part is P-H-A-N-A-I, and that means to speak. Now, there's little Jack. So, you know, Pasquale would always say D.D. Palmer was a prophet. And I think we're all prophets. So I'm going to discuss what the word prophet means to me. So a lot of people, they see the word before and they speak. A lot of people think a prophet means you're prophesying, you're talking about something before it happens. That's what a lot of people say. But to me, it's like, if I'm speaking before you right now, it's like you're speaking before someone, a group. And I think, to me, what a prophet really means is you're speaking before God. And when you speak before God, it's like everything that you need to figure out who and what you are comes to you. So I look at it like this. When we speak before God, we can see like our God's image. And we see who we really are. And then when we come back into this realm of space and time, because once you're speaking before God, you're outside of space and time. Then once we jump back in, it's like that we have a little more messages on, even though we're in the valley of darkness, but we have the courage to realize that we can grab the bull by the horns and steer it in the right direction. And I believe, there's a guy who comes in my office, he likes to watch the videos of Pasquale. He goes, "Are we really winning?" I said, "We've already won." And he goes, "What do you mean?" I said, you have to win inside of yourself, then it shows on the outside. And I really think when I say being a prophet, chiropractic came here so each one of us can realize we are a prophet. We speak before God, we see who we really are, and we come back in here to the space and time realm and we do it, and that's how you bring heaven here. So that's what I have to say.
Does anyone want to ask Brian anything?
Any questions?
Mark Johnson?
In that word and what you've broken it down to, what do you extrapolate that's so important to you about that you wanted to talk about?
It's about putting yourself all in before God. That's what it's about.
Okay.
And just learning how to live that here. That I want heaven here. And for me, that's why chiropractic came here.
Just for clarification,
Sure.
Are you sure it means before? Because I was always under the understanding that prophet meant to speak for.
And I looked it up in a big fancy dictionary. I looked it up in a few sources and they said before. For that word, it means before.
Okay, only because, the prophet spoke for God.
I understand that.
That's my understanding of it. But, okay, it's before. Which I guess is thing. That's why pros and cons.
Yeah.
Pro is for, con is against. But okay. Do you know what the biggest religion on the planet is?
No.
Capitalism. It wants many prophets.
But what it comes down to is, it's really just, like I said, allowing yourself to just see who you are. Like to me, I keep saying that's why chiropractic came here. So we can speak before God, see where God's image, and bring it here and live it.
Okay.
Joanne.
So you said that you want to bring it here. Is there a difference for you between here and there?
No, it's really just having the conditions of heaven here, meaning to realize there is no difference. And so everything I've ever done, I have access to. All of it. I can go up and down Jacob's ladder all I want. All right, so that's it for me. Open. All right, the floor is open for whoever would like to come up. Yeah, that's a dehumidifier. No, the heat's not on. All right, whoever would like to come up, just raise your hand and come on up. I have to erase the board too. That's how we do things. I go bald somewhere.
You go both.
Alright, good. I once had a big discussion with a rabbi about I go bald. The guy used to take care of. You met him, Phil, the guy Jeff? Alright. Anyone, just come on up. Alright.
Alright, Fernando, chiropractor here in Brooklyn. So I was doing a little reading and I got struck by something that reminded me of Pasquale, because once we were down here, Pasquale said, we didn't come from the apes came from us. I was like, what? You know, it was like one of those days, like once he said, there's no circles in heaven. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with that? But he said, and I figured that one out, you know? At least in my head, I go, oh, now I get what he's saying. But this one, I've come across things, you know, explained it, I'm sure we all have, about how the popular science has it backwards. But I really didn't have any good information, you know? I was just like, I was getting different things saying, they got evolution backwards. The animals came from us. And I was like, okay. But I was reading some stuff. It was actually for some homeschooling material I had for 7th and 8th grade for my kids, because I picked it up just in case the regular school didn't work. So it's a kid's book, really. But it's the Waldorf stuff. They're pretty intense. And basically what this guy was saying was like, when you look at embryology, at all the mammals, birds, lions, when they're really small, their hands look like human hands. And then they evolve and become paws or wings or claws, whatever. But the human hand stays, so it's almost like they're a later development. They're a specialization, and ours don't get so specialized. Obviously, we can do a lot of things with our hands. And then the guy was also saying, if you look at these animals when in the embryonic stage, their foreheads are kind of like ours. They got the big forehead and their chins are back, and then as they develop, these features come out. So that's what he was using as saying, I think these popular people got it backwards. And it was just very impressive to me. And he was also saying, the hands go with our posture. Obviously, the animals are down on all fours. That's why their hands are different. So our hands wouldn't work if we weren't upright. And as chiropractors, obviously that makes a world of difference to us. So that's all I have to share on that.
Alright, anyone want to ask Fernando anything? Anyone? Phil?
But as
Come in.
embryos, we also, humans, have gills. In the first, I think, 6 to 7 weeks, we have gills, and then the gills go away. So, it seems to me we came from the sea and came out.
Sure.
So, how does that work into their theory? That
I don't
they
know.
came from
I can't
us.
explain their whole theory because I'm just piecing it together. But
Yeah.
he was saying that embryology, if you look at the embryology, it does show, like, they say that it shows earlier stages in our development.
Right.
So if the earlier stages, those hands being like ours, and then the later stages then becoming specialized, that's what he's using going, well, obviously they came from something, we all came from something that was very human, and then went that way towards the animal. Fish he wasn't talking about. He was talking about mammals and birds and things like that.
I get it.
So the gills, then we did come from the sea.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do you think that humans are the highest form of mammals?
Mammals. Highest form. It depends what the highest form is, but I think we're pretty far along. I think the consciousness thing, maybe we're beyond even. Yes, I would say yes.
Anyone else want to ask Fernando anything? Anyone? Alright, thank you. Let's go. Alright, the floor is open. Whoever would like to come up.
Go ahead.
Mark Johnson.
Mark Johnson, chiropractor, Red Bank, New Jersey. I've been thinking about this topic of intelligence in our philosophy of chiropractic because I went to Sherman, I went to a lot of chiropractic seminars that don't have anything to do with self-centered. And we're so different than what they have going on out there. To see what our profession's really doing is kind of a wild thing. A really neat thing that I see a big shift in is they're doing what's called tonal adjustment. They're really speaking about D.D. Palmer a lot. And they're talking about like picking up the tone of the body, and actually at one place they were talking about attunement, like tuning the body or attunement. And you know, principle number one about there's a universal intelligence. Well, I've been thinking about, you know, they talk about universal and we're talking about innate intelligence. I don't really think there's an innate intelligence. I think universal intelligence is universal. Intelligence comes from God. God is omnipresent, all-powerful, in the infinite bliss, all the intelligence that could possibly happen, and it's us that are kind of blocked. So even in B.J. Palmer's thing about the truth, saying that we deal with the subtle essence of the soul, I think we do. And we are working with that subtle essence of the soul, and that's a good reason why we need to be clear ourselves on what we're doing and how we are serving these people in front of us, because if we're off our game, we take some of that hit back at us, because I've experienced that. I think, you know, I've gotten so sensitive to certain things that, and I was waiting for this perfect time to do the adjustment, and it wasn't like I was taking energy back from the person, but what Brian and I have spoken in the past about, you know, what Pasquale said, like, you're only be able there to perceive what's going on in that person so that you have an idea what they're going through, what's happening in their body, not to fix it, not to do anything with it, or not to absorb it or do anything, just to become aware of it. So I've been thinking about us in the line of service, and people come in with their problems and they want to talk about their symptoms. Whether we want to talk about it or not, it's good to let them just talk about it. But when they do that, they're looking for you to tell them what you feel is wrong about them. And I think the beauty of chiropractic is we can say, we're not here really to tell you what's wrong with you, but we want to work with what we know is right with you, which is that subtle essence of the soul. And people have a lot inside that I've been experiencing it myself, where I got to get even deeper and cleaner inside than I've been. And my body's been going through a lot of crazy stuff in that mode. So I guess the whole thing about the innate and universal, the more we want to serve God, because God's my boss, as we serve God, whatever's in there that's garbage has got to come up for the purpose of healing, to get it out. Because one other thing I just wanted to mention, in matter changes. They've done many experiments with it by the frequency of the energy that goes into that matter. So it'll morph itself and change by the frequency of the energy that goes through that material. And I think that's really beautiful, because a lot of our garbage or debris that Pasquale used to talk about, it has to come up. It's blocking us, and it's blocking us from being able to serve these people in a better way. I have more, but I my time.
Anyone want to ask Mark anything? Anyone? Go ahead, Phil. Phil Chenet.
So, are you saying that because of the tonal frequency that the adjustment puts in, that we can actually alter the DNA or the matter of that individual?
We don't alter it. They alter themselves.
Right, but by us putting in that tonal frequency through the adjustment.
Let me rephrase something.
Okay.
As we put our tonal adjustment, okay, because each one of us is going to have a different effect on people, right?
Mm-hmm.
As that matter accepts what we put in, as Pasquale would say, power, not force,
Mm-hmm.
that power has a transmission to it. You're changing the matter that's right there when we contact, okay? that body is taking that and it's going to morph it however it is beneficial for itself. Not because of what we think it should be or something like that. So getting back to what I was saying about helping them with what's right with them, keep focusing on what's right, because I think I, for a while, was getting pulled off track. And it was like the debris was building up in me, and I had to clean some of that garbage out, or it was making me more aware of how much I still got that I got to get clear on. Yep.
Joanne.
Were they using like tuning forks or bowls or sound for the sound?
Just your body, your soul. Which was kind of a cool thing to see that people were actually like getting soulful. Because man, 2 years ago when I went to a bunch of different ones, I was just like, man, this is like getting flat. It's all about treatment. It's all about fixing. It's all about that kind of stuff. And it was really boring and I felt terrible. This time I have a lot of hope. I feel a lot of hope coming in our profession. I really do. And I feel like when Pasquale said we've come over, we've done some changeover, or what was it, Brian? We've changed the karma of chiropractic.
We passed over karma.
We passed over, but that means we changed it. So that frequency is going to change the matter and all, whether those people know it or not. And that's the cool thing about it. We can be aware of it because I can feel that change when it happens.
Phil Bracco.
Do you mind me asking, where did you go to a seminar that they were talking about this? Because I'm interested.
Well, at Sherman,
Okay.
Network Spinal Analysis, they don't even call it network chiropractic. They don't call it adjustments at all. In fact, a lot of it is not really adjustment, like physical adjustments. They might just come up and they call it, not atonement, some,
I just want to know where, that's all.
yeah. But I was at New Beginnings too, and they had a ton of it there. They had a lot of people doing BGI, like doing BGI work, biogeometrical stuff.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mike.
All right, thank you.
All right, the floor is open. Whoever would like to come up.
I guess in the last
You coming up, Joanne?
Yeah, I'm gonna come up. I just want to share something. Maybe you guys can tell me more than I know. I don't know about it, but I'll come up and share. So hi, Joanne Chimay, chiropractic wife. There am I. So I wanted to share that I've been reading this book called The Emotion Code, written by a chiropractor, and I love the fact that, well, he talks about how that, well, we say thoughts are things, right? The emotions are caused by thoughts. The thoughts come first and then the emotions. And what happens is people tend to store the emotion when they don't get to express it. So he feels that a way to help somebody is they can release these emotions, and these trapped emotions are causing a lot of the ailments that people seem to have. So I just wanted to share that the first thing he does before the patient is he prays. He prays, and then he does the muscle testing, where people say, like, are they ready to receive this? So it made me think of it when you were talking about that. Like, and he asked them, he does the muscle testing, whether by arm, he likes to do it too, by balance and how they rock forward. And he asked them, do you want to be healed? Because a lot of people don't want to be stuck with their stuff, and they don't even want to. So they get to see, like through the muscle testing, okay, you really don't want to be healed. And he says, and this is for emotions, and he says, and he finds out though that a lot of times, if he then gives them a cranial adjustment and asks them the question, do they want to be healed? Now they're ready to be healed. So they have to get their neck adjusted to get more in alignment with their body to know about where they're going to heal their emotion. And he just does it. He says if he teaches you how to do it in the book, and I haven't done it, but he has this thing with, use magnets first, this process with magnets, but he says basically it's just like you said, with intention, that you go over it and you release it. And they've been having remarkable results from it. So I just thought I'd share that info, the emotion code.
Anyone want to ask Joanne anything? Anyone? Mark.
So you have to have a thought to have that emotion get stuck?
Yeah, thoughts are things. Thoughts start emotions. Emotions
No,
don't
no.
just come out of nowhere. So what happened was people have thoughts, so maybe it's a trauma that happened and the way they thought about it, and then they stuff that into the body, you know, so you have it somewhere. You could also have emotions that you picked up, like a wound that you caught in an embryo. Some people have it for, you know, it's a generational thing, but as you were formed, because that was part of that thinking that formed you, the thinking that was around you, that all created that emotion that you now have stuck with.
Anyone else want to ask Joanne anything? Phil Shaman.
Do you remember the name of the chiropractor?
I have it on my phone, I could tell you.
Okay.
All right, so Joanne, so the thought comes first, then the emotion?
Yeah.
Where does the thought come from?
That comes from our own consciousness, right?
All right.
Choice.
I'm not going to count Phil's, so anyone else want to ask her anything? And we can get the name from you when you have it. Thank you, Joanne. Thanks for that, Jay. We got two Phils, so Phil Shaman.
Shemay.
Or
Shemay.
Or Shemay not.
Oh, he's coming
In
back.
my case, she never did. Hello, you all know me. Chiropractor, Kings Park. No longer ubiquitous.
Wow.
Kings Park. I'm semi-retarded, I mean retired. And so therefore, I'm weaning myself off for all these health calls that are coming to me. So, having said all that, you know me, I've been rewriting the Bible, and I got to the passage, A New Understanding it's called. I got to the passage about Lot and his wife. You remember that story? Sodom and Gomorrah, God said, you got to take your family and leave, I'm going to be destroying them. So he takes his wife, his kids, his daughters, whatever, they leave. And boom. And as she hears the boom, she turns around. Oh, he warned them, do not look back. Didn't say why, don't look back. But don't look back. Of course, you know how women listen to men. She looked back. And what does she turn into?
So,
Stone.
A pillar of salt.
Phillips.
Now, that was my question immediately. Why not stone? Why not wood? Why not a pile of sand? Why salt? That's going to be a talk for another day. That's it.
All right. Anyone else? Would anyone like to ask Phil anything? Anyone?
I kept it under 3 minutes.
Way under. Just for maybe a little hint for the future. Does the salt have anything to do with being balanced?
Come to my next lecture.
All right. Anyone else want to ask Phil anything? Anyone?
Go ahead. You had your hand up. Go ahead.
Well, salt is a very powerful element, and it is a solid, and I guess it can absorb a lot of frequency, and they were warned not to turn around. So something created that frequency to shift into a solid from being pure energy, right?
Are you asking him something?
Yeah, I'm getting there. So, the salt, when you were talking about it, you said, why not stone? I was going to ask you, what made you think of stone?
You said it.
No,
Did
I
you
know,
say
but-
stone?
Yeah, he
but-
He did say so.
Yeah.
We
I
also-
I
tried.
said stone and you said, why not stone?
Right. Why not? Well, why salt? And then,
then
by the
next
way,
lecture,
I'm not
find
doing
out.
the talk. He did the talk for
Yeah.
me. No, I'm only kidding.
Okay.
No.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything?
Your question was what? What was your
Why
question?
not?
Why not stone?
Oh, why not stone?
Yeah.
Because, well, stone is an aggregate. It has many different elements in it, like a silica, other like calcium, it could be other things, everything. But why sodium chloride? Why that? And I thought about it, and I've had this thought for years, but it came crystallized for me when I looked at it and I sat there and I just thought and thought and thought. And you know where thoughts come from?
Tell me. That one works.
This one?
Yeah.
What is this? What's an idea? Is it a thought? Is an idea a thought? Yeah. In Italian, what's this? Goddess.
Yeah.
What is it?
Goddess.
Goddess. Dia in Italian is goddess. The eye of God. Let the single eye be the light of the body, Jesus saw. Another topic for another day. I got a lot to write.
Alright, that's 3. Alright, Phil.
Okay,
Excellent.
thank you. So
All right.
thoughts come from the goddess. No.
Then they're going to ask him who's the goddess, but that's for another day. Phil Bracco will be our future speaker.
No. The goddess. Yes. Yes. I disagree.
Okay, guys, I had to write some notes on this one, but anyway, just to start off with, my son Brett graduated dental school, and I was very proud of him. And he flew out to California and got himself an apartment in Long Beach because he's going to be working at the Long Beach VA, which is a big dental clinic there out west. And he just arrived there today. He drove a car across the country, him and his girlfriend. So he just got there today. So
Congratulations.
Yeah.
thank you. What I wanted to start off by saying is I'm Philip Bracco, chiropractor, and today, June 17th, I graduated chiropractic college, June 17th, 1983. And it's funny how it works because Brian had asked me to talk like 2 months ago, and it was my son's birthday, I couldn't go. And then I couldn't come to the next meeting for some reason, and here I am today. How do you like that? Huh?
40 years.
40 years. And it went pretty quick. So, let's see. Okay, so, I've been a self-centered person here since 1985, when I first met Pasquale. And I have to say that I really do love the self-center. And I love all the people who come down to the self-center. Every one of us is unique. Phil is unique, Mark is unique, everybody's so unique. And the beautiful thing about it is that they get up and they talk about what's on their mind, right? What they're thinking about. And it helps me to be better because I start to think in a different way maybe, or I start to question things. And the beautiful thing about it is that we come down here and we share. It doesn't cost anything, right? We share. It's a beautiful thing, okay? Okay, so when I think of Pasquale, I think of this. I think that he would have liked us to call him Papa, okay? And since it's Father's Day tomorrow, right, it's very appropriate. And I for some reason, when I think of Pasquale, I think of Papa. And every father wants their child to go further than them, right? They want them to do better, to be better. And I think Pasquale wanted that for all of us. And in his own way, I think he adopted us, sort of like as his children. And he kind of led us, or tried to steer us And he didn't tell us what to do, but he kind of steer us in the direction where we could become better. So I wanted to go and start my talk tonight and say this. On the first day of chiropractic college, when I started in 1980, an instructor who was a chiropractor stood up in front of us, and he talked about two things. He read a story from BJ's book called The Bigness of the Fellow Within. Anybody want to ever hear of that book?
Mm-hmm.
And he read the story, That's Something. Have you read that story? Anybody? Never heard? Okay, the story is, Phil, you heard it, right? The story of That Something. And the story of the something, I'm going to, paraphrase it, but the story of that something is about a fellow back in probably early 1900s who was poor, had no money, no food. And today we would call him homeless, or that person homeless. And he was homeless, and he described his surroundings as drab, and just everything was just like all negative, just a no positivity, at all, very dreary. So he's out on the streets and he sees this well-dressed man walk by, and he says to the man, "Hey, can you give me some food?" Right? And the well-dressed man says to him, "You don't need food." No, I need food. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten." "You don't need food. What you need is to find that something." And he says, "When you find it, you come and get me and tell me about it." All right, so he thinks about it, and one day he falls asleep, and he has a dream, and in his dream, a voice talks to him, and the voice says that's something, and so he says to the voice, where are you? How did you get here? And the voice says, "Well, I've always been inside of you. I'm inside of your soul." And he says, "I didn't know you were there." I mean, most people don't know I'm there until they awaken. And make a long story short, in the dream, the voice says to him, I wrote some of it down because I know I would never remember it. He says, the voice says, "There's that something in each and every one of us. That something can move mountains." So he said, "Oh, well, then you must be power." And the voice says, "Yeah, I am power, but I'm more than that." So he says, the voice says, I am what men can use to march into hell and win." And he says, "Well, then you must be faith." "I am faith, but I'm more than faith." So then he says, I'm that which can take a creek, or whatever he called it, a small river or whatever, move huge things just upon its movement. "Oh, then you must be power." "Yeah, I'm power, but I'm more than power. I'm which can take a man who's down and out and rule the world." So, "Oh, then you must be ambition." "I am, but I'm more than that. I'm more than faith. I'm more than power. I'm more than ambition, more than confidence, so on and so forth. He says, "I'm that something, and that's something that lies inside of each and every one of us. And when you awaken it, that something, amazing things can take place inside of you. Your whole life will change." So he's trying to talk to the voice, but the voice, he's waking up from his dream, and the last thing he hears is, "I will." That's the last thing he hears, "I will." So he starts thinking about it, "I will." And he awakens, and all he can hear, all in his mind is that something, and I will. So he walks outside, and he sees this young boy carrying a bunch of packages. That's what he does. He was working. So he says, "Let me help him." So he grabs some packages to help the boy, and he carried them to this factory. So the boy says to him, "Hey, man, who do you work for? Where do you work?" He says, well, I work for you right now. So the kid thought that was strange, but he didn't think much of it. So he goes to the factory where they make packages. So he helps the boy, he puts the packages down, and he sees that there's all these laborers that they're hammering nails and making boxes of some sort, right? So he looks around, he grabs a hammer and starts hammering boxes. He watches what everybody else does, so he does the same. And by the end of the evening, the man in charge, I guess the boss, says to him, hey, they didn't tell me that they were sending you a new guy to work here. I guess they forgot. What's your name? And he starts to clock out and he starts making money there. And it's funny, right, how it starts to work for this fella. His whole life is changing, right? So he works there about 2 months. In that 2 months' time, he realizes that the factory could work so much better, more efficiently, if they changed some of the ways that they did things. And within 2 months, he starts to implement his ways of doing things. And before long, within like a year or so, he's holding down the most important position in the factory. So one day, one of the owners of the factory walks in and says to the person there, the boss, I guess, next to him, says, who is this guy running our factory here? Who is this guy? So he says, didn't you send him? He says, I thought you sent him in. He says, no, I didn't send him in. I never seen him in my life. So they bring him over and they said, who sent you here? He says, why? Am I not doing a good job? No, you're doing a great job. Everything is working just great. You're doing fantastic. But who sent you here? So I forgot to tell you in the beginning, when he met the man on the street and the fellow told him he has to find out something, the guy gave him his business card. Right? So he pulls out the business card and he gives it to the guy and he says, this guy sent me. The guy who gave him the card happened to be the silent partner of this company, right? So they call him up and they call up the silent partner and he says to him, you probably don't know me because I never told you my name, but I was the guy 3 years ago or 2 years ago that you met on the street and I asked you for food and you said to me, you need to find that something. He says, and I found it. And so on and so forth. It's really a great story, and that was a good way to start my chiropractic days. Okay, hold on a second now. Okay, so Pasquale used to say, one second. Pasquale would say that if you want something bad enough, you have to work for it. And you got to work for it. Have you heard that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you got to work for it. So the next thing that I was taught was palpation. Okay, so palpation is extremely important, right? That's one of the first things they taught us in school. So I remember the first time I palpated, I never even touched somebody, right? It's like strange. Your classmates lay down and you go over and they tell you how to palpate. I think I went in there like this. It's like, I really didn't know what was going on, with that. But I worked at it and worked at it and worked at it. So when I finally got to the clinic, I wanted to be efficient, in what I do. And palpation was extremely important because in those days, we used palpation to determine where we were going to adjust that patient and so on and so forth, right? And I learned early when I started clinic and I started seeing patients that everybody got x-rayed in the clinic. So I figured I want to get good at palpation. So I would examine the patient, palpate their spine. I would write down all the areas and all the vertebrae that I thought were out of alignment. Then after they x-rayed the patient, I would compare my palpation skills to the x-rays. And I wanted to know if I'm getting better at this or I'm not, And, little by little you learn, And I got better and better and better and better at it, okay? So, Pasquale told us that we have to evolve, right? Evolve. We want to be better. We want to become man, right? So I looked up the word hands written in Spanish, it's manos, right? So if you want to become man OS, right? OS stands for operating system, right? So if you want the man operating system, you have to use your hands. You have to use your hands. So where are we today as compared to where we were 40 years ago, right? Am I still palpating spines? Yeah, I'm still palpating spines. Am I beginning to cross over? Maybe. I want to start crossing over. I want to become better. I want to become man. How many of us out there can say, I don't have to palpate anymore. When the patient lies down, I see it. I see where they need to be adjusted. How many of us out there can say that? So we got to start to evolve, to become better, become better. And in order to walk, you first have to crawl. Then you learn how to stand. And then you learn how to walk. So you have to evolve. You have to get better and better. It's a process. It takes time. How many of us out there are still adjusting the same way we were adjusting when we graduated chiropractic college? It blows me away. I can't believe it. Adjusting is like something that comes from within you. And all these years I'm in practice, man, I'm still learning how to adjust people. And when I'm in practice, I said, you know what? Maybe if I drop my elbow this way. What happens if I raise my elbow up that way? What happens if I turn my hand this way? What happens if I bend the person this way? What happens if I bend their head that way when I adjust them, right? Because I want to be better at it. So how many of us are still adjusting the same way? How many of us don't have to even adjust the patient anymore? How many of us can just touch the patient with your hand? And now the patient is better. How many of us can say to the patient with words, rise up, you are well? We want to become man, right? We want to get higher and higher and higher and higher. We got to start to set our goals at these levels. So, next thing I want to talk about is wisdom. You know, I didn't even know this, but there's a whole book of wisdom in the Bible, right? It's interesting, right? And Pasquale talked about wisdom all the time. Hold on 1 second. Just a second. Okay. So I said wisdom. What's the difference between knowledge and wisdom? So I looked it up as like Brian would in his dictionaries. And it said this: knowledge is facts, information, and skills acquired through learning or education. Okay? So what's wisdom? You know what? And that reminded me of something Pasquale told me. He said when he was in the war, he said he would have these officers come in right out of like West Point or whatever, the Naval Academy. And he said they didn't know what they were doing, right? He called them 30-day wonders. In other words, they went to school for 30 days, but they haven't got a clue what's happening, right? All right, so what is wisdom then? Hold on a second. Okay. So wisdom is facts, information, skills, and good judgment acquired through experiences. Okay? Big difference. Learning it in a book and having experiences. So wisdom is extremely, extremely, extremely valuable. So I have a little passage here from wisdom in, if you just give me a second, I want to read it. Okay, and this is, come on. Anyway, here we go. This is King Solomon talking about it. He says, King Solomon prayed for wisdom, and riches came to him. Therefore I prayed, and prudence was given me. I pleaded, and the spirit of wisdom came to me. I preferred her to scepter and throne, and deemed riches nothing in comparison with her. Nor did I liken any priceless gem to her, because all gold in view of her is a little sand, and before her silver is to be counted mire, M-I-R-E, mire. Beyond health and comeliness, I loved her, and I chose to have her rather than light, because the splendor of her never yields to sleep. Yet all good things together came to me in her company, and countless riches at her hands, and I rejoiced in them all, because wisdom is the leader. Though I had not known that she is the mother of these. So wisdom is extremely, extremely valuable, right? So in conclusion, when I think about wisdom, to me, wisdom means this. It means getting closer to God. So that's what we're all about. That's what we talk about here at the Self Center, getting closer to God. So that's my talk for tonight. I hope you got something out of it.
Anyone want to ask Phil anything? Anyone? Joanne?
Did you notice that when you were researching wisdom, that it's the only place that's referred to something of God in the feminine form?
No, I didn't notice that, but that is true. Mm-hmm.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything? Phil Shanae?
The word wisdom comes from two words, and it means wise house, domus, the wise house within. So that wisdom, that wise house, which is the house, who's the resident?
So you asked, what's the question? I'm sorry.
The word wisdom means
I got wise house, but who's the resident inside the house?
Yes.
Inside of me, right?
Yeah.
It's God inside of me. Yeah. I got that.
Ma?
You mentioned about how skills haven't changed in a lot of people. Is there something that you feel like you need some evolution in yourself?
It's a good question, Mark. I'm sure we all need evolution and everything. I have to think about that one.
Anyone else want to ask Phil?
Yeah,
Joanne?
can I do another question?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, so, yeah, you were saying that, that evolution, and then come up and asking, like, can it just be that I just touch somebody? Do you believe in your heart of hearts that really is possible for
What
us?
I'm saying is that as we get closer to God, that will be possible. Yes.
Anyone else want to ask Phil anything? Phil Shanae?
You remember when Pat used to, admonish us constantly, saying that technique doesn't matter. You could do it this way, you could do it that way. Technique has nothing to do with the adjustment. It was the intent behind the adjustment. How do you reconcile that, what you just said, that you have to improve your technique in order to improve your adjusting ability? If Pat said it doesn't matter when your intent is pure,
Right.
doesn't matter if you do it this way or this way,
Yeah, I got you.
right?
That was my talk about 3 months ago.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
I talked about intent, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
And purity. That still stands, okay?
Yeah.
Well, when I say technique and adjusting right now, is because no two patients are the same, okay? I've got patients who come in and they say, turn your head to the right, and they'll go all the way to the right, like beyond, right? And I'll tell them, sometimes I say, let me take a look at that. turn that to the right. They go, I am turning it to the right. You know what I'm saying? So there's so many different people. And not only do you have to become better at your adjustment, I see it like this. You want to be so good at your adjustment, the patient is so comfortable receiving that adjustment. It's very important, okay? Very important, I feel. The patient has to be very comfortable. When I talked about palpation before, palpation is a two-way street, okay? Patients feel you too. I know sometimes first thing in the morning in a cold winter day, I palpate somebody's spine and they'll go, oh, doctor, your hands are so cold. And Pasquale gave me this one. Well, I got to warm them up on somebody. Or have they ever told you this? Doctor, your hands are on fire.
Yeah.
Right? Have you ever had that?
Yeah.
And they are on fire. You could feel it yourself. So it works both ways.
And I always like to ask Phil anything. Anyone. I guess I'll say something quick. Instead of saying evolve, Pasquale said it's really about advancing.
Okay, same thing.
Yeah, I just want to know if that makes a difference.
Same thing.
All right.
Same thing.
Does
That's a better word.
Yeah.
It's a much better word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does this, well, I like the wisdom stuff. As you as a chiropractor, how does it help you get wisdom being a chiropractor?
Well, remember what I said about experiences,
Yes.
right? So wisdom is acquiring experiences, you know. Every time you touch a person, it's a new experience, right? I mean, we have so much good stuff going on, and I wasn't aware of that, Mark, what you had told us, right? But we have so much stuff that is so negative, too. I mean, so we try not to look at that stuff, right? But I have to say, you know, chiropractors, number one, they don't even know what chiropractic is. I hate to say that, but it's true. I got people who come into my office because they went someplace else first, they were unhappy, and then they somehow wind up in my place, right? You know what they say? The other chiropractor told me I got knots. I got knots in my muscle here. I say, oh, okay. But meanwhile, I'm saying, what the hell? What school did you go to? What'd you learn? You know? So, advance. Every word that you say to a patient, every single word counts. The less you say, the better sometimes, most of the time. But every word you say counts. Everything you say. Very important.
And I always like to ask Phil anything. Anyone? One more time, anyone? All right, Phil. Thank you. Excellent.